Well. Welcome on in, everyone, to the good old 11th installment of this lovely show called The Brick Connection. Of course, powered by Matt Black Bricks, my good friend. Oh, one of the best in the game, dude. And of course, we're joined by none other than for this. I don't know. This is actually a kickoff to a new season. So, welcome, Mr. Quiet Brickhouse. How are you
Hey,
doing, my
it's
friend?
good to talk to you and see everybody
Oh,
in the chat. It's good to see you
yeah.
guys here. I do
Oh, yeah.
recognize some names from my streams as well, so it's good to see you
This is
guys
good.
here.
I agree. I think, I'm not sure if you've watched an episode or two or
Yeah.
listened in here and there, so you're familiar with going for the night drive, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think it's time we go for a little night drive, kind of welcome everyone in, then we'll kind of dive in this wonderful conversation, and just thanks again for coming on in, dude. It's
Yeah. No, of course. No, it's always good to just talk to some more people about
Mhm,
this. Just customs, because most of the time, I mean, talking to the same people, or
mhm.
most of my friends actually aren't really in this space. So it's good to talk to some new people about this.
you know,
It's cool.
man, I'm glad to hear it because it's kind of why this show was born. So
Yeah.
I think it's about time I gotta. Sorry, I'm driving a vintage mobile today, so we have to really crank these windows down. You see.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
All
course.
right, they're officially down. So our very first comment tonight was actually from yesterday. It was Shreddy. He had the frog.
Good.
Good old Shreddy. And then
Good
following that,
representation.
absolutely. And I see you have a frog joining you tonight as well in
Yes.
the
We got
studio.
Ricky right over here, so he's happy to be
Ricky,
here.
good old Ricky. And then we also got Brick by Brick Together. What's going on? Papa Trip. We got Katie. We got Fred. Everyone's putting in the frogs. I even had to put in a frog too. I wanted to feel included. You know. Then we got PTC, Printer Toner Customs. He's gonna be a future guest here relatively soon. Then we got a former guest on the show, very good friend Nate from Nate Builds. Then Katie coming in again with a lot of frogs. A lot of frogs. Then we got Amy Schultz. She says, looking forward to learning and getting to know Quiet. I agree. We were talking in the green room for a minute, hence why we were a little bit late. But it's like, I met him last year's Brick World and seen him again this year's Brick World, and then we're in a few common servers where we kind of get to see what each other's spews, and it's like now I actually get to sit down and talk to him. So this is pretty neat. Then we got Lily. What's going on? And then we got Coop from Get Cooped. So we all just got cooped. Would you believe it or not? Just scrolling. We got Hayes. What's going on, Hayes? Mr. Meow. I don't know. Sorry, I absolutely butchered that. But I apologize. Someone so handsome, could be you, could be me, or it could be a mixture of both.
It's probably Ricky.
Oh, Ricky. Ricky
Yeah.
is a very handsome frog. If I were a frog, I'd want to look like Ricky. And then Ivano 25. Oh, geez, that Quiet? I'm saying the same thing, believe it or not. Then we got Fred. What's going on? Stickler. Bearded Brickman. All right, we're getting. There's a lot of folks. Man, you're popular. You're a popular fella. So I'm gonna turn down the night drive a little bit because it's getting a little bit loud. But so thank you again for coming on. Just really cool to have you here. Been following you since you kind of started getting going. Mainly kind of peeping in through like our mutual friend Tom's site. Kind of keeping up to date with like your drops that happen over there too, because he is a reseller for you.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of like following along. And I would say by far my favorite product you've produced is by far the Death Trooper upgrade pack.
Yeah, I'm glad
Absolutely.
you like that.
I think I have about like 12 of them now.
Oh
That
wow.
just got to build up that army a little bit. They need some tall legs, you know? They're not
Happy with
short.
how it turned out. Yeah, it was Melnik and I's idea. Like, we are just trying to figure out, like, what can we do with these legs? And then well, Death Troopers are one of my favorite troopers from Star Wars. So I was very, very happy to actually make a product that's related to them, you know?
Mm.
So I thought this upgrade pack was really cool.
It's
And I'm very happy with how it turned out. Yeah, I was very scared to see what the reception was going to be
mm,
because it's a custom legs, pair of custom legs. So most people I feel like would say like, "Oh, that's not something Lego would do," you know. But Lego has done that before. There's the Avatar tall
mhm.
legs,
Jim
So
Woody.
they would totally do that if they had the chance, but this is just a different height, you know.
Mhm.
And it's very subtle with the difference, but like man, it's I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I know it's like
I
my own product. I'm like, obviously, I think it's cool, but I think it's really cool. I'm just
yeah.
happy it's to be made, like regardless in how, like performance wise, with
Mhm.
sales. I didn't really, it didn't really matter to me because I just wanted to make this. But surprisingly enough, it was very successful. So I was
Good.
really happy
Good.
with that.
I'm glad to hear it because, like, for me, like, Death Troopers are also one of my favorites as well because I'm a big Halo guy,
Yeah.
and they remind me a lot of Spartans.
Yeah. They have
It's
a
like
very unique uniform.
they
It's
do,
very cool.
but it's almost like because like the Imperial, like the Empire, like genetically modified them a little bit, and then I'm like, shoot, that's what the UNSC did with the Spartans, dude.
Hmm.
So it's a
Yeah.
nice little parallel there.
Yeah. That's
But
cool.
if you don't mind me asking,
Mhm.
how's your week been?
My week, pretty
Mm-hmm.
good. So I just recently did a drop. Well, that was last week. So we got all
Mm-hmm.
those orders shipped out. I was
Oh,
pretty
good.
happy with that. Um, yeah, then I'm just back at the studio printing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just always there, honestly. But yeah, nothing else really new. How's your
Oh,
week?
oh, it's kind of just beginning in a way, but it's already felt like it's been a long week. It's been doing a lot of stuff for my own personal stuff, and then this YouTube stuff, and then work, and then stuff like that nature. Getting ready to go back to school here in the next few days, so it's a lot of prep work this week to hit the ground running next week.
Hmm.
But I appreciate you
Yeah,
asking, man.
yeah,
Very kind soul. But just I'm very curious with all like the new shows and all the new movies, and then even now like the Lego leaks and the announcements that have happened. Is there anything that stands out to you that you're like, I'm riding this train pretty heavy right now?
that I'm like excited for. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know actually. Okay, I guess the new Superman movie.
Oh, thank goodness. Yes.
Before I wasn't really, but one of my friends kind of nudged me into it. I'm like, okay, this actually
Mhm.
does look pretty good. So I think that comes on Thursday, right? I'm not too
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I have my tickets all set. I'm
Gotcha.
very excited because it'll be the very first movie that I am actually in as a just what do you call them, like a
Extra.
person. It's just an extra. I was just walking.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. No,
because
that's really
they
cool.
were they were filming right outside of Progressive Field. Where they're using it as like the meteor like ballpark in the film. And it was my sister and I. We were kind of walking along in there, and they're just like filming everyone walking outside the ballpark for. I'm not sure if it's going to be used, but they're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, yeah, here you go. Write your name on the clipboard with your address." And then probably like 2 months later, we got a check in the mail of like
Wow.
it wasn't a whole lot. It was like $15, but like shoot,
Yeah. No, no,
it's just cooler
that's
to.
sweet. That
It's
is pretty
like
cool. So you have no
I'm
idea
like,
if you're actually going to be in the movie though yet until you
yeah,
watch.
yeah. I'm like,
Nice.
you know, I was talking to my sister about it. I think yesterday, and she's like, if we were gonna be in it, we would have been invited to the premiere. I'm like, this is a true statement, but
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I'm
I don't
hoping.
know. I don't
I'm
know.
hoping. But either way, it was cool to be able to kind of live in Metropolis. Like I'm sure you've been in Cleveland because we were talking. You've been around in Ohio before.
Yeah.
Um, it's like I remember walking down, like you'd see the city Metropolis flag taken down, like taken up where the Cleveland flag was, or you'd just be walking along the streets and you see like all the made up baseball players where the Guardians players are on like the street posts and say welcome to Metropolis. So that's really cool. And it's like, and now they put that back up for the movie premiere this week. I'm like, okay, this is neat.
Yeah, but no, that's sick. That's really exciting.
I'm like, I hope this movie does well. So there's a second, and I can live in Metropolis one more time. You know,
I'm sure it'll do well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But the one thing that just really angers me, there's no David Cornsweet Lego minifigure Superman.
Yeah, that's very surprising. Well, honestly, Lego just kind of hates DC. That's not Batman. I think that's pretty obvious, you know, to everybody. So, I mean, if they were going to make a Superman minifigure based off of this movie, it would probably be in like take longer than a year and a half, probably, if they wanted to now. But
all I know is if it takes too long, I might just have to open up my own pad printing business and just make it myself, or make the design and just hire someone to do it.
I've seen a few people trying to go for that too. So that's what customs are for. So
this is true.
It'll be better than what Lego can do. Anyways.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I barely spend any money on like legit Lego like anymore. It's just all customs.
Yeah,
it's like
me too.
Like, why get a mediocre set turbo tank? You know, when I could get the cream of the crop figs, you know, from customs and find a good turbo tank on Rebrickable.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been just getting a bunch of mocks. Yeah, mocks are great, honestly. So the only sets I really buy, I guess some of the UCS sets, like the Slave one, the newest one, the Jenga one. I mean, that's amazing, you know, without a doubt. I don't know, some silly sets. Maybe the flowers too. Honestly, they're really good. I think everybody can agree on that.
I love the parts in them.
Yeah. No, it's very, very good.
But it's like, man, you know, why? You know, I could give back to small businesses rather than the big giant, you know?
Yeah.
But even though the big giant, you know, gives us the means to do something, but it's just a big giant, you know? But, all right. Do we want to dive into the deep questions?
Yeah, sure. Go for it, man.
Okay.
I'm all good.
So, I'm very curious to see or learn about how did Quiet Brickhouse begin? Like, what's that origin story?
Yeah, so it's actually it's interesting. So first, I want to say, like, I mean, I'm sure for most of us, we were like fans of Lego as a kid, right? But like for me at least, I stopped like when I was maybe 13. And I got back into it pretty recently, like at the end of 2022 is when I got back into it. And that was at the same time, I'm actually a new Star Wars fan too. I wasn't into Star Wars until 2022.
Really?
Yeah, I never watched the movies really at all.
I'm sorry.
And, yeah, I know. It's like, I've told this to people like, what the hell are you talking about? How?
I'm so sorry.
Well, actually, so I got into it from the Jedi Fallen Order video game. My friend showed it to me, and I got into Star Wars through that. And I mean, that game was really good. And after that, what got me into Star Wars is actually an M&R video. He showed off the UCS AT-AT, and I'm like, wait, the Lego sets can be like that? That's super awesome. And so, believe it or not, the set that I got into was the UCS AT-AT. I bought that. And I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And then fast forward a little bit, I learned through, I'm going to say the forbidden name, Mayday videos. I learned about pad printing and custom minifigures through that. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I got some GCC stuff. I'm like, wow, customs is actually kind of awesome. And so from there, let's see, it was through a family friend that I learned did pad printing. Professionally for like other companies, like for Apple and, you know, stuff like that. And so he was in the area. And so I went to go visit his shop and I'm like, wow, wait, I know Lego's pad printed, you know, like through customs and stuff. And so he showed me like the whole process and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. I'm pretty into it. And so from there, he let me buy his equipment and one of his machines, and then so I set up shop in my dad's warehouse for his company, and so from there, like it was mostly I shouldn't say all self-taught, but I was our family friend, he taught me a good amount, but then it was mostly like me trying to figure it out with Lego specifically, because he didn't do Lego pad printing. So that was my first figure, was the Inquisitor Cal Kestis. We're approaching a year. I think it was either August or September when I released that. I think it was August. I'm not too sure. No, I think it was. It doesn't matter. But yeah, from there, it was okay with print quality, but I was pretty happy with like how I started, because in my perspective, I'm kind of, I shouldn't say compete, but I'm going to be compared against like factories, like professionals. And so I know that I'm not going to start off like amazing from the gate, but through my first few waves, I was able to just, continuously upgrade my equipment, and teach myself more and more. So now I have, because for Cal, I had a single pad printer, but now I have like a 6 pad printer. So I upgraded like quite a lot from where I started. So like every wave, I'm learning more stuff. I'm trying to be better, like every single wave, I want to upgrade my equipment so, I could provide a better figure. If somebody has criticisms, I want to know it, so I can improve myself. I won't improve, I'm not being told these things,
Yeah.
So it's tough, but like, it feels really good once you actually create, what you want to do, essentially. If that made sense.
It does. And yeah. I'm really fascinated, like in the aspect of like where you're saying like how you got into the pad printing, like that exact moment or in that time frame. Like, I'm not gonna say the M word, but you're kind of saying that what kind of got you into customizing, let alone pad printing. You dove right into pad printing, where a lot of people usually start off doing like UV, then they kind of like seem like they evolve like a Pokemon into pad printing. So I guess like kind of going off with that, what were like your first few products like, or even like your first few test samples, like when you're starting to learn and teach yourself? Because like you said, you're taught by you said your uncle, kind of gave you like the basic crash course type thing. You eventually had to take those tools to, what he gave you. Had to like, okay, go on out to the wild. What was that like? Like your first little bit, like your initial run. Like, do you look back on that fondly, or is it like more critical?
Honestly, like when I look back, I mean, I think I'm pretty proud of what I did, because it was really hard. I'm not saying like I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but there was a lot of mistakes that I did that I am fully aware of. But comparing from then to now, essentially like using a single pad printer to now I'm using a 6, like that's a huge difference. And thinking back, like, wow, I was able to make that figure with just a single pad printer. Like I don't even know how I had the patience for that, because it was really tough. There was a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, a lot of misprints, but like I just kept on going because of like, I want to actually do this, So like all these mistakes I do, I just know that I can do better if I keep on trying,
Yeah.
And just have the motivation to do so. So like, well, some more context, I guess. So I graduated 2 years ago, and I was going for a computer science game development degree. And if you know anything about the game industry right now, it's horrendous. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I just graduated at the absolute worst time in human history.
I'm just hoping Bethesda doesn't like cut Elder Scrolls 6. That would be...
Who knows at this point, honestly. Anything's possible with Xbox. But the thing is, like, after I graduated, I had like two job opportunities that I was about to go for, and in the same time, that section of the studio was laid off. So it's like it happened multiple times. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? I felt really stuck. So then when I learned about pad printing and like this community and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is something I'm into, and it's fun. I just want to pursue this. I'm saying a lot, and Fred is making me very aware of that. So thanks, Fred.
Oh, Mr. Fred.
Appreciate it.
Throwing up the hearts, throwing up the hearts. So I'm just really curious. I always, personally, I like kind of learning behind the scenes of like how people get going. You said that your uncle was the one who kind of got you into
it. It was a family friend, so not family related.
My bad.
So,
my apologies.
No, that's fine.
Can you describe what that was like? What it like? If you describe it, like, how is that process from like the start to finish of like being taught like this new way of creating something?
Honestly, it was pretty straightforward because with pad printing, at least the way he taught me, I mean, I know so many different companies, they have their own different methods, with inks and types of machines. They're all different,
Mm-hmm.
So with the way he taught me, it was very straightforward. I took notes, just make sure that I got everything right. I'm I guess, visual learner. I mean, I think everybody's a visual learner. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I just took notes I just took notes of like everything, just to make sure like I'm getting everything correct. Took a video as well. He let me do that, and I just reference back to that when I need to. But there's a point where I just didn't need it anymore. So now I just know what to do. Especially now. I guess the bigger difficulties is just inconsistencies. I'm still trying to perfect getting everything perfect every time. That's probably that's very difficult, but I'm trying to do that.
Okay. But so say if something doesn't turn out perfectly, do you like have like a bin that you kind of go through? Then do you like scrap it, or do you just go back and wipe them?
Usually wipe, because once you print something, it's still fresh. It is easier to wipe off. Though I have transitioned to a new ink that's a lot more resistant, because the previous ink that I've been using, this previous company, I guess like the ability to scratch it off easier was like it was not comfortable for me at all. So I had to since my previous wave, I transitioned into a new company. It's a lot more expensive, but I knew I had to get better products. So now it's actually a lot more difficult to fix my mistakes because it is very difficult to wipe off this ink. So
Gotcha.
I'm happy with that.
So if you don't mind me asking, this is gonna sound really stupid, but I'm curious. I worked in the good old Home Depot paint department for a while. How does it like? How do you get the exact shade you want? Is there like if you work in Adobe, where there's like a color number sample that you can just use, like punch in? Is it something similar like that? Like, or is it all its own colors?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So essentially when you order, well, at least how I did it is when I order ink from a company, I usually buy the whole set that they recommend. So it's about like maybe up to 17 different cans of ink. And from there, they provide you a software where, okay, I want this Pantone color, essentially. And so it tells you on the software, like, what colors you need to mix to get that color, essentially. From that set of 17, then it tells you how many grams of each, and then you mix it together.
Oh, wow.
I was I was actually pretty scared about that. Before I got into pad printing, I was like, how the hell do I have to buy a can for every Pantone that I need in the future? Like, how does that even work? But luckily, it's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I was very happy with that.
I was always just curious, like, do you have to have like a whole entire like backlog of just like different paint colors, or?
Yeah, surprisingly not. Though it is like, if you want to color match exactly with the Lego, you got to make sure you pick the right Pantone. And sometimes there's inconsistencies. So how do you fix something that's a bit too darker than it is? Maybe you have to throw away the entire thing and start from somewhere else. So you got to do that.
Huh. So when you say like it tells you like how many grams, do you put in like a number, a quantity of like what you're gonna start to print, And then does it kind of like
Yeah,
equate for
so
that?
yeah, like if I want, let's say like sand green or something, usually what I put into the machine is like a specific amount of grams. So then I tell the software, I'm like, hey, I want 50 grams of this color. What do I need to mix to get this? Yeah, that's the easiest way of saying it. So
That's okay. Man, that's actually really darn cool because I just think of like just someone just has like this entire workshop just like paint cans, just like so.
some people do. Yeah, if I know some other people that they just like get the exact ink that they want. They don't mix it themselves because they know maybe a company can do it a lot better or more accurate, you know.
Mhm.
So that's completely fine too. Again, like with, I mean, at least in my position, since I'm doing everything myself, I'm sure other companies are doing it completely different, you know.
I mean,
I have no idea,
some,
you know. I'm just
something
doing
that
it my
worked
own
for
ways that
someone.
I figure it out, that if it works for me, then I mean I'll go for
Yeah,
it.
it's like it goes back to that thing like what works for someone might not work for someone else, and they have their own thing that then it just repeats itself. You
Yeah.
know, everyone has like their own way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But like when you were first starting, were there like any types of like major hurdles or like near death moments to like what your vision was and when you first started?
That was a good question. There, I think like every wave there is like something going on. Not every wave actually. Recently it's been going pretty well. There's not like a major hurdle, but I would say the biggest issue, and let's see. I would say once I first started, it's so okay. Here's a good topic.
Mhm.
Something that is underappreciated. Printing on clone trooper helmets or helmets in general. If you think about it, I mean, there's so many different surfaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not flat like a torso. So what GCC does, it's extremely impressive. You know, once you're trying to do it yourself, you're like, wow, you know, what they're doing is really good. So I guess from my own experiences of trying to print, let's say something like a helmet, right? It makes me appreciate like how other people do it. Yeah, especially like complicated surfaces. So I would say that was one of them when I just wanted to do the Halloween clone trooper for fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, wow, this is hard. It was
Yeah, I
difficult to
can
do.
imagine
Yeah.
because it's like just like I'm looking at the helmet now. Like there's a lot of curvature to it, and
Yep.
also there's an amount of like dead flat space too, where it's a very hard compromise of what it would be.
Yeah.
So when you kind of go through that, because before I got on here with you, I was kind of watching like a few videos of how Lego pad printing and stuff like factory footage. So is it like a sponge that comes down and like gently kisses it, like the part,
Yeah,
or
that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, usually we call it the boob. That's
the
usually the
boop?
shape. The boob, the pad, whatever. So it picks up the print and then, presses onto the part. So for me at least, I have to have, well, I create my own fixtures. Well, not anymore. Um well, it depends on the part, really. Making sure let's say if you're doing a helmet, you have to have a fixture for each of the sides or the top or everything like that. So you can perfectly, stamp it essentially every
Okay.
time. So, yeah.
So it's not like if you're working a drill press, where you have to be careful with how much force you're bringing down. Is it just like machines? You just like press a button and it just kind of goes along the cycle, or do you have to
Yes, yeah,
manually?
the automatic pad printers, it's all air powered. Well, some of them aren't air powered, but the ones I use is air powered using giant air compressor. So it's like the same amount of pressure each time, so you get consistency.
Good. Okay.
What I see other people do in the community, let's say like to be frank, like people who don't know what they're doing, they buy a manual pad printer that they see on Alibaba for $200 and think that they can start pad printing. But what you don't know, when you do a manual pad printer, it's in the name. You gotta do this every single time. But when you're doing that, I mean, if you can consistently do the same amount of pressure every single time, I mean that's very impressive. But it just won't work. It just
So
doesn't
that's the
work.
boomer way.
Yeah, that's the boomer way. That's the
Okay.
best way to say it.
we're gonna trademark that here, the boomer way.
Yeah.
Why not? But so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit more. Stray a little bit more away from the origins because that's we could talk about that all day because that's just my favorite thing to learn about personally. But I'm curious to know like your pad printing, like just the process of customizing itself.
Mhm.
So if you could walk us through from like the beginning to an end of a project, what does that all look like the timeline?
So first I work with, it's pretty straightforward actually. So I would say, working with a designer, they get the design print ready, have each color layer on its, or each color on its separate layer, essentially. I get those, I create my own plates, make sure it's ready for my printer. Then I put the plates in the machine, and then I put the ink according to each of the plates.
Mhm.
And then I spend maybe, depending on the project, it can either take, let's say the Death Trooper legs and arms. That's like a either 1 day or 2 day project.
Okay.
It can be. Sometimes if I have a complicated minifigure, let's say like front, back, torso, face, and leg printing, could be a week maybe for me. Well, it depends. It depends if I want to do an all-nighter. Sometimes I do. I just stay over at the studio and I'm just printing because I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So it really depends on all that stuff.
So when you say plates, sorry, excuse my pea brain size here.
Oh, no worries.
What do you like? What are the plates?
Yeah. So okay. Well, first, before I address that, it's good to ask these questions. It's fun to talk about. I know that in this community, not everybody knows like all these terminologies and like how pad printing works. So it's good to ask questions.
Yeah.
Like on my Discord server at least, or when people talk to me, I'm perfectly fine when people ask questions how these things work or like what I'm doing or stuff like that. It's fun to talk about. It's a good conversation. But to your main question though, with plates, essentially what it is it could be steel, aluminum, or I think ceramic are what companies use. One of those three, and you take your design and you essentially engrave it into it, and each plate has to be corresponding to only one color. So essentially, let's say you printed a minifigure face. So how many colors is a basic face? Let's say 2 colors. The eyes, the black eyes, mouth, and then for white, it's the pupils, right?
Mhm.
So for the pupils, you got to put that into its own separate plate. So it's just the 2 dots. Okay. And so that's going to be your white color plate. The other one, it's going to be the blacks of the eyes and the mouth. So that's going to be in the black plate, essentially. So you got to separate those, and then you insert those in its designated spot on the printer.
Okay.
So, if that made sense. There's different types of ways of making plates. So the lower end, I suppose, is using like a laser. Or I shouldn't say lower end. There's all these different methods. You can get various degrees of quality through these different methods. So like using exposure, like UV exposure with film onto like steel plates, poly plates. I'm using a lot of words. I don't know if you're following,
I'm tracking.
Yeah. But essentially that's how it works. There's again, with pad printing, there's so many different ways of doing things. So
okay. So when you make, so when you're saying engraving the plate, do you have to, say there's like the 360-degree minifigure template?
yeah.
Do you get like one big chunk of like said material, and then do you just, I guess, like engrave that particular piece, or in this big chunk, and then do you just stamp it out from there?
Essentially, each plate I'm referring to is only just that one. So like the pupils and the eyes, or sorry, the blacks of the eyes and the mouth. That's all black, right? And that's only on the minifigure head, right? So I keep that on one plate, and that's it. So essentially, on average, let's say like a minifigure with arm prints, and let's say average of 6 colors throughout the body. That can go up to like 17 plates.
Okay.
Because each section again has to be separated. So that's kind of a reason why custom minifigures can be so expensive is because when you're paying a factory to do these things, you're paying for these plates, which is the most one of the most expensive parts of it, essentially. So it goes up from there.
I imagine the plates aren't cheap.
No, they can be very expensive.
Oh man, there's so many questions, but I'm not gonna ask every single one because then we'd be here for 15 hours.
So
But-
that's I mean, when you compare it to UV printing, the benefit of UV printing is that you can do so many different colors that just like if you do it in pad, it just doesn't make sense to do it. You know, it'll be stupid expensive. Who's going to buy this thing? You know, but if you do in UV, then UV is just like it's like printing like an actual like paper printer, I guess, because it's like scanning the design onto the part. So
Okay.
it's a lot cheaper to do, and you can put on however many colors you want with UV. But with pad printing, you got to think about these things. The price can just go up substantially with just like an additional color, you know, or even like the amount of time it takes to print by just adding one color, you know, it would be a lot.
So when you do the plates, is that for both automatic and manual printing?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. To do any sort of pad printing, you need plates. That's another aspect of it. So you need good ink, good plates, good pads, good machine, good printer, as in yourself, you know. Yeah, know what you're doing.
That's you know, Stickler's asking. He's curious. What's expensive for plates? Hundreds or thousands or plus?
Usually for plates, I mean, at least for myself, where I get mine, I have to buy it in like a lot at a time. So it can go to a few hundreds or a few thousand. It can be. It just depends on how much I want to order at a time. But
So
because the more you order, I mean, the bigger the discount essentially, but it can be up there.
So, you know, you're saying like you're kind of buying in bulk.
Yeah.
So when a new year comes around or whatever, do you get like a lineup of like what you want to produce, and then that way you can make one big lot transaction for all the plates you'd need for that fiscal year almost?
Kind of. I don't really have to plan on ordering the plate material like ahead of time because I do make the plates myself, like the engraving aspect of it. I don't outsource that. So I just need the material. The material will cost a lot, but you know, I have a whole stack at my studio, you know, just like when I want to print the next thing, I just take one. Okay, let's take I need like 10 of these, you know, have these to the side and get ready to, you know, start engraving them essentially.
So you laser do you use like, so when you say you do it yourself, what's that process look like? I'm curious. it's like
it's complicated. I don't know if I can say like all these aspects because it's all these different machines and equipment. It essentially does take, well, there's a new method I'm doing with using steel plates, but that'll take like I have to dedicate a day to do it essentially. It's using like you know, how do I even describe it? Using an exposure unit, using acid, all these different materials. It's complicated to say the least.
My science brain is getting excited just hearing as soon as you said acid. I'm like, ooh, what kind?
Yeah. It just takes a lot of learning to do. I don't think I've perfected like my new method yet, but I'm getting there. Certainly.
It's as long as you can. You know, it's all about the journey of it. I think is the real beauty, and that's with anything, just the process of it. Because if you were an expert, what fun would it be? You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the learning part is great. Like from a year from now, like I want to think back and think, wow, I didn't know jack shit before, and now look where I am. You know. So.
Yeah, that's so when you're, you know, you're kind of designing, or say like if the design was sent to you or whatever, what would be like a software that you would have to use? Like, does the pad printer itself have like its own software you have to upload into for it?
No, the printer itself has no software at all. The only thing that has is like its interface for positions and what pads are activated at a time. So that's separated. I just need Adobe Illustrator so I can take a look at the artwork that I get from designers, whoever I work with, and then from there, then I just need Adobe Illustrator. That's it. Yeah, software wise, not a big deal. It's all physical. Unfortunately, can't do everything digital.
I mean, if you did, what fun would it be?
Yeah,
I prefer
exactly.
like more of like, I don't know, like the pen to paper style, the physical rather than
Yeah.
the software part.
Yeah, every
But
single day after I leave the studio, there's just always ink on my hands, on my clothes.
that's
It,
awesome.
sign of good work.
It is, it's like when you're playing Red Dead 2 and you finally built that house, you're like, yep, I can look back and see I did it. But, kind of like really random here. When you work with other designers, do they ever just send you like a loose cannon project? Like, hey, I'd like to do this. And you're like, I refuse to do that.
Not from the people that I am currently working with. Usually how it works is I just suggest a product or one of us suggests one and I'm like, yeah, we can do that, and then it goes from there. I'm pretty casual with it, honestly. I'm not like super strict or like, hey man, sign this contract. So, this is how much you're getting. I'm getting. We're very, I should say, casual. I guess we just want to make good things, like
Yeah.
good products that I like, that they like, and we're like, hey, we think other people like it. Why not give it a shot? Tied to that actually, essentially, since I'm doing everything myself, I want to take more risks with projects that I don't think anybody else would want to do because of the risk. For example, the Death Trooper stuff. Who's going to think about doing that personally?
Yeah.
Because it was such a, I thought it was a big risk because it was so different. Not saying like, oh, look at this project, it's so awesome. No, I'm saying it as in, it doesn't seem Lego, but people liked it. So I was really happy with that. Same thing with the soy jacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, I'm mostly in the Star Wars scene right now. Why would I make soy jacks? Well, I did that because I thought it was funny. That was it. It was a fun project that, by the way, super happy with Gosler's design. I just got to shout out that. Like, it was perfect. I was so happy when he was done with that. But with the soy jacks, it's like, why would I risk doing that? But since I'm doing everything myself, I'm like, you know what? Let's do a silly project. See how it goes. If it doesn't do well, okay, cool, whatever.
People want to wave too, soy jacks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gosler and I, we are working on a new type of soy jacks. We can't resist it. We can't resist it.
I think you gotta have some fun in that aspect. It's like, why not? But
yeah, why not?
So when you're going through like a print, like scaling it out or whatever, when you go to print, do you ever like, when you say you finish one, do you ever say, if you're doing like a clone trooper, and you look at yours compared to Legos, do you kind of look to see how the print alignment worked out between yours and theirs?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I make sure to just make sure it's like lined up perfectly. With pad printing, there can be very, very slight variations. But I'm just working on making sure it's like really good at each time. So with Lego, I don't compare myself to Lego necessarily, because with customs, though we say we want to match Lego style, I still think customs has its own style, if that kind of makes sense. I mean, we're kind of doing our own thing in some way.
It's like saying you're doing graffiti and you're trying to match this graffiti, but all graffiti is different.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just thinking of trains, dude. Just thinking of trains. But so you say you do all printing in house. That's very, to me, that just hearing that's already impressive. It's like, shut up, just take my money, because I'm just curious. So when you say it's all in house, of course that means like the printing stuff. And as you were saying, like with the plates and then doing the colors, what else would kind of fall underneath the umbrella of like everything you do in house?
So let me think. So let's go through the process. So I order the parts from Pick a Brick or Bricklink. It comes to the studio, and then I immediately, let's say, so I make the plates myself, except like I have to buy the material. I can't craft steel myself. So I order the material and make the plates. I order the ink. I mix the ink myself, pad print the figure. Once the figure's done, I ship it out myself. So like that whole process, I just do it myself essentially. So that's how that goes.
Sorry, I feel like that was a very silly question, but I was just very curious.
No, that's fine to ask. But I mean, the thing is, it sounds very like streamlined. And it kind of is, I guess.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, to do step 2, you gotta do step 1. You know, so just gotta go in sequence. I
So-
want to do everything myself, like more sustainable. But the only thing I can't really do is custom parts. Obviously, I can't do that. I can't do injection molding. Can't 3D model. I wish. I'm trying to save up for a crafting table though. That's for sure.
Because once you have a crafting table, as long as you can fit it in that little box, it can just pop out.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that's what Nikki did. He got a crafting table, so that's how he's like pumping out all these products really fast. I'm very jealous.
He's not sharing. They're not sharing their secrets.
No.
That's a shame. But so you've been working, with pad printing. Have you ever thought about maybe, doing pad printing and maybe, I mean, you're already at like the chef's kiss of like printing dynamics, but have you ever thought about maybe opening up the UV as well? Kind of working both aspects of that?
So funny you ask that. Yeah, actually, in about a month, I'm getting a new machine for UV printing. So I will be doing that. And so what my goal is with the UV printer is to just add more fun accessories with figures I pad print. Because I think when you come out with a product, it's always fun to just like have more stuff with it, not just the figure itself. If you want like some fun tiles or stuff like that. So with my UV printer that I'm going to be using, I want to do more projects that I'm into and that I know that like most people aren't into. So I could do very low quantities of figures that like I just want myself, but I know that it won't sell super high. So does it make sense to do it in pad essentially? So yes,
Okay.
UV, yeah, I'm gonna be going into that too.
I feel like it'll be just feeling like you're riding with training wheels on. You go from like one hardcore extreme form of printing to something a little bit easier that maybe
Yeah.
not has so many steps.
Yeah, I mean the UV printer that I'm getting, I mean it has a lot of benefits with it too, not just with printing Lego. So I can use that for other things. So it'll be pretty good. I'm excited to get started with that. I should have more info next month whenever I get it, but I could also be doing commissions with that. But I don't want to say that C word because people just jump in as soon as they see that. When is it opening? Are you doing commissions? So
Yeah, are you doing commissions?
not right now. Not right now.
Well, that was a good 49 minutes. I'm joking. So, my last part about like, just the actual like printers themselves. I'm not going to say the very last, but we'll search straight away here. I won't, beat that dead horse type thing. Just because I don't want to bore you or bore people watching. Oh, so when you're doing all the printing in house, like what kind of machines do you use? I know you're saying like automatic, but are there like a wide range of printers that you can pick from?
Oh yeah, 100%. It's difficult to. I mean, there's so many different brands. When I was looking into it, I picked the one that I'm using now because for one, I mean, it didn't cost as much as a car. That was what I was hoping for. So got a good price, but also maintenance. That's something you have to look into to make sure, like, hey, if there's an issue with it, how easy is it to fix? Essentially. So it's those aspects really. I mean, there's all these different printers from based in Europe, based in China, based in US, different prices. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess another aspect of that is how did I decide to pick a 6-pad printer versus a 5? I just wanted to, how do I say? what's the word? It's like future proofing, I guess. Yeah. I think
Mhm.
that's the word, future proofing. Like, what if I need something that's 6 colors? You know.
Yeah.
So might as well pay the extra just to like make myself have an easier time in the future.
Okay. I mean, say if you were to do a Superman, right? You need the blue, then the lighter blue for like the texture, then an even darker blue for the line. So right there's 3. Then the yellow, then the red. There's 5. Then I'm not sure what the 6th color could be. Maybe like a very faint white for like a sheen on the S. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So there you go. If you ever make a Superman, man, you're covered, dude. It's covered. But so when you're working with like designers and stuff, do you find it sometimes difficult? Like when you say if you just did one with Melnik, then you go to work with someone else. Does it ever become like a point of not like I'm trying to figure out how to word this. I apologize, but is there like a
complications
yes,
or
yeah,
difficulty? So
yeah,
I would say this: everybody that I've worked with so far, I love these guys. They're great. I'm saying this without a gun being pointed at me, but I really do like the guys I work with and talk to. Like, I don't know where I would be without these guys.
mhm,
Like they, when I first started in this community, I was like, it was great joining the friend group essentially and just talking with them, you know. And so working with all these different people, it's been super easy. It's nice. Um, there has never really been complications, not at all.
that's. And then is there like ever like a moment where like someone's design philosophy might be a little bit different than someone else's, and then you have to kind of figure out that gap in between of like how I can print this type thing?
No, not at all. The types of designs that people give me, they always work. Like I provide them a template where, hey, put the design on this template. I'm able to print it essentially. Or if they have their own template, usually like it works well, So it's not really an issue
Okay.
at all.
And then, because you work with, doing Star Wars themes, is there like any other IPs that you'd like to kind of venture into?
Oh, 100%. I'm just doing Star Wars because I'm in that space right now with like the
Hmm.
communities, but I want to do other stuff. 100%. Like I said with the UV printer, I want to do some more niche things that I don't think other people will be interested in. But I know that there are some that would want these figures, but it's not like a huge amount, like from TV shows, anime, video games, stuff like that.
What
So,
would be the top 3 video game licenses that you'd like to do? Also, quick
so
shout out to Brickworld. Mark is here.
oh, good to see you.
Pookie.
Good to see you. I would say, well, if it's not obvious, I mean, Doom. I've always wanted to make a Doom minifigure. Actually, 3 from the 3
Okay.
modern games, essentially from 2016 Eternal and the newest one. The only hurdle for me, well, the biggest hurdle, is like I need like custom parts. I need a 3D modeled helmet, shoulder pads, possibly gun, and get that injection molded. Like I would want to do that essentially.
Okay.
Um, I would say the other video games. I mean, this might be cheap, but I mean Jedi Survivor. I am doing
Oh,
that.
yes.
I'm doing
Okay.
a lot of different characters from Jedi Survivor. I'm very, very excited to reveal those. I haven't, but it's so hard not to. Like, I just want to show people, hey, this is what I got working on. But I prefer just waiting until it's close to be done.
Yeah.
The parts that I'm waiting for is the custom parts. So I just gotta wait on that. Then I can get started printing. Another video game. Oh, I'm a big Battlefield guy. I love Battlefield 4. I would love, so if I had unlimited money, access to like, a really good 3D modeler
Mhm.
with military models, I guess. I don't know the best way to say that. But I would do a Battlefield 4 soldiers from the I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
Battlefield 4
yes.
at all,
Yep.
but love to make the soldiers from there. That would be
I
sick.
like I like all the battlefields. All
No,
of them.
that's a fine line. 2042.
See, that one was
Not cool,
just
man. Not
for me. It
cool.
was just it was fun playing that one with like a lot of my friends, like in school at the time. We just do some heinous activities in that game that should not be spoken. But it was just fun to, you could actually play cops and robbers as a cop, and that was fun. If you have like enough people, you can.
I mean, honestly, any game is fun with friends, even if the game is absolute terrible.
Now,
So
Battlefield 1, I enjoyed that one a lot.
yeah, that was a good game.
Flying, just being we would call ourselves the Plane Bros, and we would just kamikaze into everything, just for the fun of it, and see if like who could jump out and actually live. That was actually fun every now and again. But in your opinion, when you're producing, or I guess like printing, what in your mind, what makes a good custom figure?
A good custom figure. That's a good question. I would say it's all about what makes a good custom figure. I mean, I could say the easy answers, as in like good alignment, good color matching, good parts. I guess it. Are you saying like a good? I guess that goes with the design too. Like there's so many aspects with. Not only do you have to have the pad printer know what they're doing, but also the designer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a lot of designers that are very underrated. They don't get enough credit for what they do because it is very difficult to match the likeness of a character. Let's say if you guys see a minifigure, that's like, oh yeah, that's so and so. But how did you figure out that's that character? You have to have a really good design of a face to recognize that's that character, essentially. And I don't think many people think about that when they see really good figures. They don't think like, wow, that's pretty spot on or something like that. Hopefully, I hope that made sense. But
oh yeah, because for me, it's like I do a lot of like art and painting and sketching, for people sometimes hire me to do it, and like I was kind of asked that question fairly recently, ironically by my sister. Her and I are pretty close, and she goes, because we were I think in Amish country somewhere, and there's like a local art shop somewhere, and she's like, in your eyes, what makes a good drawing? I'm like, that's a really good question, because it's different, like you said, it kind of falls on the design, or like my case, like someone's like that artist, like what's their art style, like what do they do well, and what do they have flaws in, and then sometimes the flaws are even, in my opinion, a lot prettier than the perfection of certain areas. But that's down a whole nother rabbit hole. So you've worked with a handful of very talented designers. Would there be like a top 3 that you want to work with?
Want to?
That you haven't yet?
No, I haven't. No. I'm going to say no, because I don't like, putting a ranking list for people specifically.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own style. There's some people that I know, like, I don't think this is the best fit, but honestly, it's less about their designs. It's more of the person, personally. Like, it just feels wrong working with somebody that I know is just like, maybe their ego is too inflated. They think that they're the best. It's like, come on, everybody's here to make really good figures and just make some good products. Just some fun stuff like soy jacks. Soy jacks. I think if you were to say that like 3 times fast, that'd be a really good tongue twister. I'm not going to try, but I believe you. I'm sure everybody else should try right now.
Nose goes. Hopefully you beat someone. That's all I gotta say.
Definitely did.
But if someone, feels brave enough to do it, and just send a DM to the Brick Connection, I'll figure out a prize I can give you.
In terms of designers, though, because I like talking about this space with different people. There's a lot of people that want to get into designing, and they just don't get the opportunity to produce something because they don't have, I guess, credit. I don't know. The best way to say it is like, oh, why would I work with you? You never produced anything yet. How can I trust that you're a good person? But if you give them the chance, I mean, they can make some pretty good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to shout out, let's say, Garfield in chat right now. He's new, and he's made some really cool stuff, honestly, that I'm working on in the future. Okay. So, good on Garfield.
Good on Garfield. It's funny. I'm a big lover of orange cats, so Garfield's already there.
Yeah, of course. And also, I guess another new person I would say is like Camino and Customs, working with GCC. Like, I would say he's relatively new, and what he's made is he makes some incredible stuff, like very out there, very cool things. And so, like, I'm happy that it's given the opportunity, despite him being very new.
You need to give people an outlet or a chance to have an outlet.
Yeah, you should never like discredit people because they're new.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, what's the purpose of that? You know,
everyone like wasn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everyone was an FNG at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just kind of giving back in a way because someone gave you a chance, so it's time for you to give someone a chance.
Yeah. I don't want to see things as competition. Like if you're seeing this as like a battle, like, hey, I gotta put down other people so I can, be better. Is why even bother? Why do that?
Yeah,
it's not a good idea.
No, but kind of moving more into like the business and brand of things per se. You say, how big is your team right now? Is it just you?
Just me.
Oh, that's
just me. So I mean, I suppose like when my girlfriend and I move in together, I'll force her to do some packing. Maybe, I don't know.
And then it's not forced. It's just an implied task.
Exactly. Yeah, that too. But no, besides that, no, she's super supportive. She doesn't know anything about Lego, but that's fine. She's a great person to just complain about a lot of things, even though she's like, yeah, I get it. But in terms of my team, yeah, it's just me. Yeah, there's no team. Well, I guess there's one person a team. It can be if you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's a term called a one-man army, so why not a one-man team?
Yeah. Well, I suppose also, would you include designers as part of the team? Then I guess the designers. I mean, the people I talk to, they do help a lot with like figuring out if I'm doing the right thing or not. Feedback is good. Same thing with people that buy my products or see my products. I just appreciate feedback. It just helps. It is nothing more than help. Like, I'm not going to ignore criticism. I'm not going to be like, no, you're wrong. This is correct. This is completely fine. No, that's stupid thinking. Why would you do that? You're kind of embarrassing yourself if you do that. So like if there are feedback or if there's bad things about what I'm doing, I just would really prefer if people just let me know personally, like just DMs or just something. And so I can get better. That's what I want to do. I just want to get better.
Yeah. And the answer Garfield here, he says, you forced the dude in your warehouse to wipe for you that one time. It's not forced. It's just called being voluntold.
He was there. And so, it's okay. He did it.
Voluntold him. So you gotta do. But so you kind of like, I'm sorry to make you repeat it, but I'm just really curious at the fact of kind of like what's the typical production run? Because like brands like GCC, they do like the V1, V2, sometimes V3, V4, V5, V6.
Yeah.
So when you do a production run, when you're like halfway done printing a batch, are you like, man, you know what? I kind of want to revisit this exact product again, but do it better this next time. So would that count as like a production run?
So currently how I see things is that, again, since I'm just by myself, I prefer to work on new things rather than restocking. The things I have restocked is I did redo Cal, my Inquisitor Cal Kestis, because for one, that was my first ever figure. I knew there were things I can do better. So I redid that. Also, I did such a low quantity that it's like, yeah, might as well, people that want it, I'll make some more. So things that like I know I want to do, let's say not necessarily V2, but restock is like figures that were low quantity at first, and then they sold out. So I know that people want it.
Mhm.
I am restocking my Death Troopers. Now, that did have a V2, but the reason for that is when we released ours, Lego didn't reveal their new Death Troopers. So then they had a different footprint.
Mhm.
So we're like, okay, do we stick with the one that we just did? Or do we, have the same kind of footprint for ours? So that was like the only V2 we really did. And I think we'll stick with that, the updated footprint. Because I think I did some polls. People said that they wanted it. So might as well. With the Death Trooper kits, I really like them and they have sold pretty well. So, and it doesn't take too long to print at all.
Mhm.
It's just getting the parts takes a bit,
Yeah.
but that's something that I like to, restock over time, essentially. But other figures, I don't really see myself restocking. Let's say the Luminara, I don't see myself restocking her because I made a pretty good number of them, and I just prefer working on a new thing than
Mhm.
restocking.
Of course.
Something old.
So you kind of touched on it, or kind of spoke something similar. Like when you're mentioning like the Death Trooper pack, are there ever like little items that you would maybe like upgrade packs in general? Like, is there like a line that you would perhaps just consider keeping in stock permanently, or for a foreseeable future? Because they're
I
more of a
think,
promised
yeah,
currency in
I
a
would
way.
say so. Again, yeah, the Death Troopers I want to keep in stock because I'm a big fan of that product. I just personally really like it. And again, as I said, it doesn't take too long to print. I just need the parts. For other things, I mean, if it's just like a tile that I'm going to be UV printing, maybe I can restock those. If it's
Mhm.
easy to do and doesn't take too much of my pad printing time, then yeah, I'll do it. Um, yeah.
So, how would you handle like demand spikes, especially after like a recent drop? People that maybe overslept their alarm. Happens to all of us sometimes, or people who just weren't aware, and then find you maybe like a day or two after the drop.
Mhm.
Is there anything that
So
you kind of do to handle that?
yeah, so what I do currently, I mean, I just make a ton of stock. Now, since I got my new machine, I'm focusing on making a lot at once.
Mhm.
Um, so we don't have that problem. Like it's fine if some products linger on the store like a couple days or even a couple weeks after. That's completely fine. So people can have the chance to get it. Um, yeah, that's. I mean, for the most part, if you snooze, you lose. If you miss a figure, I
Yep.
guess. I wish I had the capacity of like continuously making more products or like restocks, but it's just not possible if I want to keep making new things.
Okay. I like that philosophy. Seems very, eh, in a way, like if you snooze, you lose, and if you were one of the people that got it, it's almost like, hey, here's your trophy, the product itself. Thanks for being present during it.
Yeah, I
It's kind
guess
of like
so.
a memento in a way.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if this is like too business personal in a way, but is there a certain way that you go about pricing each product?
Yeah, it's more towards how much the parts cost
Mm-hmm.
and the amount of prints that are on the figure, essentially. Sometimes you can see like, hey, why is this figure cheaper than that person's? Well, it's probably because they got the parts a lot cheaper than theirs. Like if let's say maybe that's not too realistic, but let's say these pair of legs, these dual molded legs, this person got $1 cheaper than the other person. That's a huge difference,
Okay.
especially if they're making over 100. So that's mostly the main part is cost of parts, amount of time it takes to print,
Mm-hmm.
amount of colors. Because again, the ink is not cheap.
Yeah.
So if I'm working on an additional color for a figure or just like a color on every part of the body, it's it's a lot. This costs a lot.
So after like a successful drop, or it doesn't even have to be, unfortunately, I feel like it does happen. A drop isn't as successful as you hoped.
Hmm.
When it comes time, like once it hits sold out, or as each product or unit is sold, is there a way that you split, I guess, the revenue from that project between yourself and the designer, or anyone that was affiliated with that?
Yeah, we have like each designer's mostly different with how we split the revenue.
Mhm.
It's pretty straightforward. I'm obviously not going into detail with like
Yeah.
what person gets what, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily an issue.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was always curious, like, especially say when a brand is doing a mass scale of successful drops, like
Yeah.
several times a month or sometimes weekly, how would that line up? So it's cool to hear that, like, you're working with a trusted group of, or a band of people, say if you will, that you're able to have that mutual understanding of how that gets
Yeah.
handled.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. That we just understand how these things go, and they trust me. I'm not going to just like drop some figures, they sell out, I run away. That doesn't make sense. That's like an
Yeah.
impossible scenario. It doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. Yeah, let me abandon my printer and company because I don't want to pay the designer a cut. Like
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. That won't ever happen. So
Because in
that won't be a problem.
Reddit, I've deep dived into a forum that has had that issue.
Oh
It's
yeah,
nice to know
yeah,
that.
and other problem or other companies and brands, yeah, probably. But at least with the people that I work with, like we trust each other. Yeah, we're good.
That's awesome.
But with other brands, I can't speak for other brands. I don't know how they work. Again, same thing with me printing. Everybody has a different method of everything. So there's no standard, I would say.
Okay. But a little sidebar here. Hello, Kennedy. Big plug for tomorrow. Him and I are going to be doing a show here, talking about Lego Superman and the lack thereof right now, especially with the movie dropping. It's absolutely heinous. Even David Cornsweat's demanding that Lego makes a Superman. So
yeah, I did see that video.
do it.
It's pretty funny.
Lego, if someone is watching you of your debauchery of a brand, do this and you shall be redeemed for this August wave of Star Wars, in my opinion. Just throwing that bone out there. But have you ever had issues with like IP and copyright in any aspect? Or is that
not yet.
Fingers
Not
crossed.
Yet. Yeah,
Fingers
not
crossed.
yet. Personally, honestly, I was thinking about that. Like that issue or that fear of copyright. I've noticed it's like, I think in Europe it's more scary, definitely. And they have completely different laws. In the US, I've noticed, let's say like AV figures. So, okay, let me go back a little bit. I noticed that most people around, or companies, or brands, I should say, they do code names for figures, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the standard. But I noticed when I look at somebody like AV Figures, they're a huge brand, right? They don't use code names. And
No.
I don't know why I haven't noticed until a couple weeks ago. I'm like, wait a minute. They're just naming this K2SO. They're naming this Django. Or not Django, but, stuff like that. They just straight up use the name. So I don't know if, like, are they even afraid of the copyright either? Has that been an issue for other people?
Yeah.
It's me.
It's really interesting because not only in just like the Lego space, but people who are doing like custom printed Black Series toys, or the facet of like every other toy you can think of, there's someone doing it custom. And why haven't they been cracked down on? It's interesting to kind of see how that goes. And then there's people who make fan films or whatever, and then they get, they can't make a profit off of it.
Yeah.
So it's curious to see, like, where's that line get drawn?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
that's
We can
decided.
just hope that, we don't get too noticed. Well, I know it's obvious that Lego knows about custom prints, right?
Mhm.
Does Disney know? Probably. But I think the main reason why they don't come down is like we're like a drop in the bucket compared to all these other stuff. We're just
Yeah.
we're like a subgroup of a subgroup of a subgroup. You know, we're customs. You know, so I don't think it's good to be cautious, but in terms of copyright issues, I don't know. Honestly, the only copyright issue that I heard people say to never do is like Avatar: The Last Airbender figures. I've heard from a few people saying, "Hey, that company will copyright strike you, you know, for using that." But I don't know. That's the only brand that I heard that have an issue.
That's really interesting. Just Okay. It's really take notes, everyone. If you want to get into pad printing, don't do Avatar.
Don't do Avatar. Don't do it at all. Though I did see Brick Tactical do that. I think it was Brick Tactical. I'm not too sure, but I'm like, oh, he made it.
I thought I saw an Aang at their booth at Brickworld.
Yes, I did too. So yes, it was Brick Tactical. So I don't know.
Brick Tactical may have just made their own grave. You know, hopefully they don't get caught wind of it. Or if they
I think in the US, at least, I think we're more protected than other countries. But again, that's not really something I want to test personally. And let somebody else do that.
Are you gonna make any Nintendo and Avatar figs?
Definitely Avatar, 100%, without a doubt.
Good.
Yeah.
Now I have a future place where I can go and get those customs for a show I've not watched since my very early youth. But kind of moving on to the Lego community and the culture as a whole. We're closing out here. We're getting a little bit closer to the end. And after this, we have a little speed fire question that people who drop questions throughout the show, I star them, and then that's your place to answer if you so wish, if you're free. But how do you think the Lego community itself has responded to your work?
To my work specifically? Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think here. I would say when I first started, I mean, it was good seeing new people just try out a new brand, you know. I think my Inquisitor Cal the first time, I'm pretty happy with how it went, though of course the printing could have been a little bit better. But I'm glad that more and more people are like kind of sticking around. I just wish, I would say my one thing is I just wish more people would be more direct towards me about criticisms, you know, or just let me know the issues. You know, I just want to know. And if they do have an issue with anything I print and something that they bought and there's a problem, I will, of course, I'm not going to like let you keep that and, you know, not reimburse you for that, you know, if there's any issues. Because again, everything that I do is myself. So I want to make sure what I'm giving you is, you know, the right thing.
Yeah.
So in terms of like the response of what I'm doing, I mean, I do like, there's a lot of positivity. Definitely. I love seeing people just curious on what I'm going to be working on next. It's nice. It's nice. And I do have a lot of really fun things planned that I know that people will like, but I just haven't revealed it yet. You know, I don't want to reveal it too early to the point where it's like, man, I don't know when this is going to be done. And the only reason why these things take time is just because of the custom parts of it. If it's just like prints, yeah, I'll get that done in a couple weeks, you know, but I'm just waiting on custom parts, really. So, yeah.
All right. And then, are there any creators like you personally that you admire?
Other creators. So I would say, I mean, I'm probably biased. I said this earlier. Definitely Gosler I think Gosler is very underrated, as well as Melnik, 100%. They have done a lot, and their designs are very, very standout, and they do influence a lot of other people. But I don't see people talking about that as much as other people. Like, they're very influential, honestly. Kaminoan, I mentioned that earlier. He's pretty new, and what he makes is extremely unique. And it's awesome to see. It's good to see variety in these creators, essentially. Obviously, shout out to Nikki, Bricks and Figs DE. Hopefully, we get a Bricks and Figs US, you know. But what he's doing is great. He does a lot of hard work, more than what people give him for, you know. I mean, hopefully that's obvious. He's printing figures as well as, he's one of the bigger resellers. Well, one of the smaller resellers. He's very small. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys know him, but also shout out to Tony, Printer Tony Customs. It was great to see him at Brickworld.
Yeah,
it's great to talk to you.
Really, really nice meeting him.
It's great meeting new people that are nice.
Yeah,
it's pretty refreshing. There's a lot of like hostility between creators just because we're in the same space, but like, come on, guys. Seriously, we're doing the same stuff, sure, but like we're trying to make some fun things. What's up? What's the issue?
Yeah, it was really nice, meeting you again this year, and then also meeting Tony for the first time. That was really, it's interesting. Like, you see each other for a year, sometimes more, every now and again, and then if you're lucky, you can all see each other at Brickworld. Sure, it's not for the amount of time that you wish, because you're always being tugged in every which different direction. There's this one group that wants you to do something, then you're talking to this one group, then you're like, oh shoot, I had previous plans. It's just so busy, because Brickworld, it's heaven on earth, but it's just not long enough. Even though factually
definitely.
On paper, it's a long convention, but in the grand scheme of things, like how often you get to see everyone, it's not long enough.
Yeah, last year for Brickworld, that's when I met most of the guys in person, and that was great, but I wasn't really like too familiar with them. I wasn't like close or anything. I was just kind of there. This year is great to just see people in person. It's really refreshing to just talk about this whole community in person, because it's always online. It's good to have somebody next to you and just talk about these things. So I just hope more, I guess if I'm talking about the grand scheme about the community, I really wish people are less hostile and just, understand we're in the same space. Yes, we're going to be having overlap with some of our figures or, projects, but like, that's okay. We like the same things. So like, no shit, we're going to work on the same stuff, and we have different styles, some better than others. Some are just like, it's just a different style. You can't really compare it, so.
And a big shout out to Stud Lake or Cody or Matt Black Bricks, the man who kind of allows this to happen in a way. Good dude. And also, again, I think we can all give a big shout out to Mark from the man of Brickworld, for putting on something every year for us to be able to flock and feel like we're with our own kind for a little bit,
Yeah.
It's unlike, it's like sometimes you go down to the Lego aisle in Walms or something, or Targs or Barney Noble, wherever you go to browse at some Lego, and you're not being judged for being a grown adult looking in a toy aisle. It's nice to be able just to be with your friends for a good time. So big thank you, Mark. May Brickworld never die. It shall live on forever.
Definitely.
But how do you feel about the balance between purist and customs, like those two communities? Is there a balance that you wish?
So I remember, I don't think so. Because when I got back into Lego, I was more like, I guess I wasn't fully aware about what customs are, because I assume like in a purist perspective, you assume it's all knockoff, even though that's not the case, And I think what we should be working on is trying to introduce more people that are only into purists to get into customs. So like, how do you do that? You gotta, I think the best example, how I got into it is with the GCC helmets. I didn't like the helmet holes. Sorry. And so I saw the GCC ones. I'm like, wow, this just looks a lot better. And that got me into it. I think there needs to be more YouTube presence if we want to get more people into customs. And so like, shout out to, I didn't even mention him, Brick Fleet, Alan. Love Alan to death. I've been trying to tell him, or trying to work on trying to get that YouTube audience that's only into like regular Lego to get into customs. So you gotta frame your videos like that in some way, to grab their attention, because it's always good to just expand the community, get some more people in. You know, that benefits everybody. Meet some new designers, meet some new friends, people that are into your stuff. Should be more open about these things. Yeah,
mutualism at its finest.
No, definitely.
But my last big question for you.
Yeah.
What are some trends that you see in the Lego custom world over the next few years? Like, how do you forecast that?
Trends. So something actually I know I talked about this a couple of days ago, or even it was yesterday. I noticed that a lot more brands are using custom molds more and more. I don't know if you've noticed that, but that's it's getting more popular. And so I think in the future, definitely a lot more custom molds. Maybe customs will get so I know a lot of people are into the Lego style. Don't do things that Lego wouldn't do. But let's take the example of the Death Trooper legs, slightly taller legs. So what's going to be the next step, from that? What will people accept more into, like, I would say, like, Lego style, I guess. So more molds, maybe like, well, there's already a bunch of brands kind of overdoing it with molds. Like there's a mold for everything, like even just like a neckties 3D or stuff like that. I don't know, cufflinks 3D. Do you really need that? I don't know. So
I see people going on making like little molds for watches.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's another good example.
It's just interesting to kind of see that trend in a way, and hopefully it sticks. Hopefully it stays for a while.
I know that's like a completely separate customs community. People are into that. That's more of like, I guess, quote unquote premium minifigure. And then for us, the figures that this community is into is more Lego style, I guess, So that just depends. Do you want to cross that line, or will people into Lego style, slowly drift into that? I don't think so. I think customs will just adapt with what Lego does for their minifigures, but always better, because sometimes Lego just makes terrible minifigures, but we just make it better. So.
Sidebar. What do you think is the worst fig of this August Star Wars drop?
The worst minifigure?
You can only pick one.
Man, I haven't really thought about the minifigures. I guess if I had to pick off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Commander Bly, mostly just because of how GCC prints their helmets for Bly. Like, I know we talked about earlier about how I said how difficult it is to print on helmets, but how GCC like prints the yellow from like even at the bottom of the chin and all the way around, extremely impressive. And think about it, Lego doesn't even do that. They can't do that, and it looks so wrong. And then GCC does it. It's just like it's perfect.
Chef's kiss.
So just because of that, I would say it's the Lego Bly, even though average person would probably, it looks fine. But like what it could have been is what GCC does.
Yeah.
So I would say that.
I think I'm writing Bakara. That sounded really wrong.
Oh, Bakara.
I mean, he just looks like, about that. Like in Alvin and the Chipmunks, he reminds me of Theodore. Like, I just want to pinch its cheeks and just,
So
that's a perfect candle,
he does. He does look like a chipmunk with a bunch of food in its mouth. Definitely. I don't mind the helmet. I think my biggest issue is the visor print is too small. It should be bigger. Yeah. That's it. That's it. I mean, I think besides that, it's okay. Yeah. But I get that. No, definitely the helmet can look a bit oversized, but I think it's because of the print. But I don't know. I don't know, man.
It just feels unbalanced.
Yeah, I totally get that. But besides that, all the other minifigures, I think they're pretty good. I think the new Phase 1 pilot, I've seen some photos that made it look really bad, but then I've seen photos that make it look really good. The render is completely inaccurate, unfortunately. But I think that figure is good. I think that's my final decision. Actually, I have to see it in hand. I have to see it in person, because every photo is like
different.
Changes how I feel about it.
It morphs.
Yeah.
It's a shapeshifter. Confirmed.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So.
my very final question to you before we open it up to what everyone submitted.
Yep.
Where do you want to see your brand in the next 5 years?
5 years. I'm hoping to have multiple printers and just have other people work. That seems realistic to me. I have the space for it, and I think that's possible. You know, I never shouted out Orbital, but Orbital Minifigs, he's a pretty big inspiration for me because he kind of just started the same way that I'm trying to do. He worked, by himself essentially, and or in his house, all in house, and he prospered into a bigger company. That's pretty awesome. Honestly, I think again that's also a very underrated person with the amount of work that he does. He's always there. There's a plume of pad print like ink always around him. Surely,
He
there
he was
24/7.
I met him last year, and he was such a nice fella. Just really down to earth, and just seemed really just content in what he's doing. Like, he's just content with where he's at, with his growth of it. Yeah. Just a very content dude, and it's nice to see that.
Yeah, it was sometimes great. I meet him in person too.
Yeah, and he has a very likable personality.
Definitely. No, he's very professional with what he's doing.
Yeah, he's a very, very good fella. But that's all the questions from me. So there's a handful here if you have the time.
No, I got plenty of time. No problem. Right on. I did see a lot of good questions too, so excited to talk about it.
I made sure to star as many as I saw, and I apologize if we don't hit your question. If we have enough time, resubmit it again, and I'll make sure to star it because I want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask their questions because not every day we get a chat to you or someone in your field, so it's really nice. So Sickler's asking, not sure if you want to divulge this info, but how much did you pay for a second-hand pad printer? I know they cost as much as a new car.
So for the first pad printer I got, so obviously I won't go into specifics on the price.
Yeah.
But because it was a family friend and he knows me, he taught me a lot of things, and also he didn't really need that printer anymore. I got it at a pretty good price. I was really happy with it. So that honestly, because I didn't pay so much for that one, it allowed me to save that extra money for the better one in the future. So but these things do cost a lot.
Yeah.
And I was very I'm not ignoring how fortunate I am to be in the position to how I'm doing things now. Yeah. I'm very happy with it.
Good. And he also has a second question. What do you use to wipe off your prints?
So for those, so let's say wiping off official Lego, to get ready to print. The best way that I've found out is it's maybe not the best way. There's a lot of different ways. But what I do is using alcohol, which is the ISO, was it 97%? Yeah, that one. And just there's a specific eraser that you use. It does take a lot of effort, but it does get rid of the print, and it does make it very clean, essentially.
All right.
So,
Liam, he doesn't have a question, but he says he purchased one of our shirts right here. I'm glad you enjoy it. They're very, very comfortable, and a big shout out to Cody for making that happen. PTC, what's your favorite part of the figure making process? Design work, part requirement, building hype, or etc.?
Okay. So I would say the most exciting part, definitely working to get the design done. Just working with the designer, seeing the iterations that we do and see where it ends up. It gets me really excited. Once I see a really good design once it's done, I'm can't wait to do this one, in the future. After that, I guess it is a pain in the ass to print, and then the really exciting part is when you get, let's say, just the torso done or the back or the entire figure, just taking progress photos to show to, you know, my friends or something, like, hey, this is how it is so far. Thumbs up, you know, just seeing the progress done and then like finished. It feels really good.
Yeah.
What I've been saying, I mean, this might sound a bit like egotistical maybe, but I see when I'm printing minifigures, since I'm doing everything by hand, I see it as like kind of a work of art, kind of.
Mhm.
You're selling art. This is like a art medium, you know? So it's like, how do I say? You have the designer make their, you know, designs, and then you take that, then you print it. Like, what do you classify that as? It's kind of an art piece. It's
Mhm.
not really a toy. I mean, it is a toy, but
Mhm.
in this space, we're not. I mean, maybe some people are playing with them. You know, no judgment. You know, it's Lego.
I chew on mine
Yeah,
every now and
you
again.
know, that is also a very difficult thing doing in house. Is not eating the plastic. It's way too good, man. Once you
Oh.
print on them, it's really good. But no, besides that, I don't know if anybody else shares that perspective that custom minifigures, I think they're art pieces. You know, you just
Mhm.
have them on display. What else do you call that?
I
You know, I
agree.
have a huge display case of all my figures that I buy from other people. They're kind of miniature art pieces. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's kind
I'd
of a topic
classify
I
as
want to
art.
hear if other people want to chime in on that. But
Yeah, it's
that's how
definitely
I feel.
art. 100%.
Yeah.
Because in a way, the figure or the plastic itself is a canvas for the work. I mean, it's a blanket sometime. No, I'm not chewing on Simple Man. That I would never forgive myself. I would cry. That's my holy grail. It's nothing will top it. Django Fett's just my dude. Simple Man. Um, so Stickler's asking, are you interested in doing any pulp culture figs, such as movies or shows?
No, definitely. I would love to. I need to. So right now, the main reason I'm doing Star Wars is just because that's like the largest audience right now,
Yeah.
or at least that's my audience. I'm in that space. I think my dream is to be able to just branch out and do other brands and like not have an issue with it, or franchises, I should say,
Mhm.
and just not have an issue, or like even think about like, oh, maybe this won't sell too well or something like that. You know, I do have like some DC stuff I want to do that nobody else has done. You know, just simple things. You know, besides that, you know, some of my favorite movies, definitely. That's more towards like, if it's really niche, I'm definitely gonna use the UV printer for that.
Mhm.
Just make a small amount. If people want them, they can buy it low price. But I'm only making it because I want it. It's
Yeah.
more of a selfish thing than anything else. So I'm never gonna like lock down to just one franchise. If there's a good design that I really like that's not Star Wars,
Mhm.
I see no reason not to pursue that. Why
Yeah.
not? Yeah.
Um, Another question from PTC, wondering what makes a figure knockoff slash replica from a custom in your mind? What if a genuine part figure has a knockoff replica parts? Is it classified as the same as molded?
Yeah, so that's a really good question that like I've seen a lot of people like discuss that, a lot of different opinions. So the way I see it is it's by definition a knockoff if it's copying one to one of what Lego's trying to do.
Yeah.
Like even just, you know, we see knockoffs that use fake Lego parts.
Hmm.
You know, it's a Lego torso, but you know, it's not actually Lego. That's a knockoff. However, if you say like GCC helmets, are they replica or knockoffs? Well, in that definition, they are knockoffs, but they're
Yeah.
really good.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's the line right there. They're extremely good. Um, I think I saw somebody else type this in the comments too. That some knockoff minifigures, they're just getting really good custom parts.
Yeah.
Like, they're really good, but they are considered, well, if it's like a unique hair, that's a, you know, custom part. That's not a knockoff. You know,
Hmm.
if Lego hasn't done the part, then it's a custom and not a, you know, knockoff. I don't know, but you can call GCC helmets replicas or knockoffs, but yeah, that's how I see it.
Hmm. I like that perspective. Stickler with another question. Other than Doom, what would be the most desirable character or franchise to make figs for?
Yeah, so Doom Eternal, yeah, that, and then man, I think I have a list. I wanted to do so before I even started printing, like while I was training to start pad printing. I want to do Clone Wars 2003 because that's one of my favorite Star Wars media. That was one of the first things I saw actually. Was the 2003 Clone Wars. Super cool stuff.
Chef's kiss. Better
Definitely
than
would love to do
one.
things from that. But like outside of Star Wars, I don't have a list. I don't want to pull it out now because I might be like scrolling forever. But again, yeah, I did mention Battlefield before.
Mhm.
I would say Battlefield. Shoot, I guess other franchises is from Chainsaw Man, the manga. I would love to do that. But that's UV printer stuff because I know that's a niche thing, you know. So yeah.
Any chance of an Elder Scrolls? Hope?
Elder Scrolls, I know my girlfriend is into it, so she would want me to do that. You know, maybe I don't know. If there's a really cool design ready to go, UV print it, doesn't require any custom molds. I don't see why not.
Shoot, I know what my night's gonna be. I'm joking. Bricks and Figs ZE, favorite designer.
Favorite designer? I would say, ooh, yeah. There's no favorite designer for me. You know, I like everybody.
I'm going with the guy who's designing for Lego because he's doing such a fabulous job.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're doing over there, honestly.
They're clowning around, dude. They're clowning around. But, well, bad answer.
Yeah, it's 100% a bad answer. But you know, I got a few guns pointed at me at this point, so I don't want to say anything.
They're actually standing right behind that green screen.
Yeah,
just
actually.
ready to, just cocked and loaded, dude. Just ready to go.
Yeah.
But you know, I believe that takes us to the end here. And before we go, I just want to say thank you to you, man. Thank you for coming on and answering my entire Google Docs page full of questions, and just thank you for what you're doing in the space. You're definitely making it a better spot for everyone, and you're preaching, like, you know, give the, you know, a new guy a chance. And I wish a lot of other people still carry that same mentality. It's really nice to see that you have that as well. And I'm a very big fan of what you've done, and I'm very excited to see what you do from here.
Yeah.
Just thank you for being you, and to everyone that's here in the chat, all 33 of you, whether you popped in or popped out, popped back in, whatever, or if you've been here since the very beginning, thanks. It does mean a lot. If you feel so inclined, you know, why not just like the show? You know, it'd be very, very fun. If you did like it enough, I will present something. We're having something tomorrow. Me and True Squadron, Kennedy, we're going to be doing a little sideshow called We Need Lego Superman. So it's definitely, you know, we're going to build up on the hype because I believe him and I are both seeing it on Thursday. And then tomorrow's hump day. So it's like we need something to carry us that next 24 hours. So if you're in that same boat and you like Superman and you're pissed off that Lego didn't do anything for this new movie, join us. It'll be a good time. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys there if you want. I'm not going to be behind your green screen holding a stud shooter.
That's good.
That you know of. I do have clones of myself. But
yeah, before we end it, I just want to say a few things. Hopefully, like I said, some insightful stuff for people not aware of like how things work. Maybe I could have worded some things a bit better, but that's okay. Just always ask questions, you know. It's fun. Like, at least on my Discord, completely fine. I like talking about these things, being open about it. There's no reason to like gatekeep these things. If you're curious about it and curious about you know, how this whole process works, like, by all means, just ask questions. Just be nice about it. That's it. Yeah, about somebody asked who sells my stuff. I have my own website, as well as if you're in Europe, that's Bricks and Figs DE. Great guy, I guess. And also
Yes.
Tom in the US also sells my stuff. So on Instagram, I'm quiet.brickhouse. If you guys want to see what I'm working on, I got some really exciting things.
Yeah.
Really exciting things to make. Can't wait to show, you know.
And if you somehow forgot where you can find all of his pages, if you need a little streamlined way, I actually linked all your profiles and pages and stuff in the description of the video.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate it.
go on over and stay tuned to what he does, and we'll see you guys all here for the next Brick Connection episode next week. Our next week's guest is currently in the chat right now, so I look forward to chatting with him. There's another hint. It's a him. So in that case, I'll see all of you guys here tomorrow night, and thank you again, Quiet, for coming on.
Of course, yeah, it's really fun.
We'll have to do it again sometime, maybe, if you're down.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, no, definitely. It's fun talking with people in the same space.
Well, until then, I'll see you guys soon.